the chat. Glad to be here today, just 2 days away from Thursday night's first round of the 2025 NFL Draft. We are super excited here in the Birdhouse. We've got the wide receiver rankings coming up tomorrow, and then we'll finish it off Thursday morning with the final running back rankings heading into this amazing running back draft class, see where they all get picked here Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. But for now, let's get into the tight ends and the position in general. The tight end position is, well, quite polarizing, depending on where you get your tight ends in your startup draft, whether you go high or go small, makes a difference. A lot of philosophy says to either just go big or go small. And so you either grab one of the top two guys, which of course in the dynasty landscape right now are last year's rookie sensation Brock Bowers, or the other young stud Trey McBride from the Arizona Cardinals. And so where does this 2025 rookie tight end class fit into the mix? We've got some talent here in this class, much similar to the 2017 class that had the amazing running backs. They also had some pretty awesome tight ends. George Kittle was part of that class, a fifth round pick. Evan Engram was in that class. So there was a lot of talent in that 2025 rookie tight end class. So let's finish off our series on the tight ends here. We will once again use Dynasty Daddy and Draft Buzz to delve into the rankings. Now you can check out the rankings over on my Patreon, patreon.com, Birdhouse Dynasty Show. Just $3 a month right now. You can subscribe now, get in while you can before the rookie drafts start in your leagues next week. And we also want to remind you to please just hit that like button and subscribe if you already haven't. We're up to 109 subscribers, looking for that big old 200 number. That is the next milestone here in the Birdhouse. So again, if you haven't hit the subscribe yet, please do so. And now let's get to the rankings. So we're going to start it off with, of course, what's going on? There we go. With, of course, the top tier, which is Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland. And those guys both look to be first round draft picks in the upcoming NFL draft. Where they go and who they go to is the question. They're so close to each other. Tyler Warren is a very versatile tight end. I almost said running back because he played running back a lot at Penn State this final year. Now his numbers are a little more, let's just give them to you. He had over 100 catches and 1,200 yards in his final season at Penn State. Also added a couple of hundred yards on the ground and a few touchdowns as well. So extremely versatile. Comparison-wise, it's hard to say like what tight end to really comp him to. Some have said Rob Gronkowski, but for me personally, I go back way into the early to mid 2000s, and Dallas Clark from the Indianapolis Colts was a huge weapon for Peyton Manning and that offense with the Colts that, of course, had Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne, Edgerrin James as well. So it's just a locked and loaded offense there. They brought in this guy, Dallas Clark, from, of course, the University of Iowa. Now, Tyler Warren is from Penn State, and Loveland is from Michigan. We do have an Iowa tight end, Luke Lachey, who will go much later in drafts, but some love him as a sleeper, most notably probably simply because he's from Iowa. but that doesn't mean that he didn't learn anything at the University of Iowa either. So back to the first round here with Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland. Loveland is more of a Zach Ertz type tight end. Now, he didn't put up monster numbers at Michigan, but he was very consistent. Also, notably, I saw on Twitter that he put up bigger numbers against the ranked competition. I don't know if I can find that tweet here. Loveland and Warren. Let me see if I can bring that one up. It was from... no. Okay. Well, we do have the numbers from Landon Oliver here, which I'll bring up to at least give you a little context. So let me show you these quickly. So this shows the career usage in receiving yards. I don't know if you're able to see that. It's pretty tight. But you show the run blocking and inline, how many times they lined up there, and then receiving routes in the slot, and what their ADOT was is most important here. Loveland had a good ADOT, 8.5, which is even more than Brock Bowers. They're basically comparing these two as well as Harold Fannin from Bowling Green to Brock Bowers. And so you can see there, yards after catch, Bowers was a monster, 8.5 yards. Fannin also just a stud in that regard at 8.1. Meanwhile, Tyler Warren's at 6.6 and Loveland at 5.4. Now, the quarterback rating, when thrown to, is the main topic of discussion in this post here. You had 148.9 for any attempts going to Brock Bowers. Tyler Warren was at 129 and Harold Fannin at 125. Loveland only at 94. Now, that can be a little misleading, and I know people have been using the fact that he went to Michigan as an excuse for Loveland all draft season, but ultimately that does matter. Like, if he goes to Indianapolis, which of course everybody's scared of for either of these two guys, well, it's going to drop their draft stock versus somebody who may go 10 picks later or 9 picks, whatever it is, to the Chargers. You're going to have Justin Herbert. You're going to have Jim Harbaugh, who likes to use the tight end, and most notably, Greg Roman, who is sort of a tight end whisperer, if you will. And so that is why draft capital is so important for these two guys. They're both looking at very solid careers in the NFL. And so I think this is a situation where we just wait and see. Now, more importantly than seeing who is the better between these two is, where do you really want to draft a tight end in your upcoming rookie drafts? For me, I have these tight ends in my rankings. I'll bring up my Patreon. Again, you can check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show, and bring up the rankings here. We go. So you can see where I have the tight ends in this big mega tier, if you will, tier 2 and 3. I have Tyler Warren at the very bottom of tier 2, and then Colston Loveland there at 13 near the end of tier 3. Now, that's mostly because of the receiving numbers that Warren put up in college this last season have pumped him up analytically. But again, if Loveland goes to a better offense that's known for throwing to tight ends, Loveland could easily move ahead of Warren. But again, for me, it's one big mega tier, tiers 2 and 3, where I have no problem trading down from tier 2 to get a couple picks in tier 3. The talent is so close in all of these players ranked 2 through 14 that I'll take a 2-for-1 all day with these players. Even if you're talking quarterback, I would trade down and grab Jackson Dart or Shadir Sanders and plus something else. So, and I don't mean that plus as a fourth rounder thrown in. I'm talking I still want a decent pick. Otherwise, I'm going to grab the guy that I like the most in that tier 2. But when we get into this here, when I have Tyler Warren ranked at number 8 for now, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to pick him at 8. When we take a look at the WAR for tight ends, it really matters on your format. So in formats where you have a 0.75 or full point premium for the tight end, definitely more valuable as a position on a WAR chart versus more of a standard cookie cutter type league like a 12-team Superflex tight end premium that's only a 0.5 premium. And what I mean is this. I'll bring up a WAR chart from one of my leagues, the Mojo League. This one, again, is a 12-team Superflex tight end premium, but just a half-point premium. And I want you to look at the WAR chart from this league here, and we'll use Dynasty Daddy for this reference. And so here is the WAR chart for over here on the left, and you can see the tight end is the blue. All right, and so if we go up top, we've got Brock Bowers at 1.12, George Kittle 1.11 for this league, Trey McBride just under 1. Now if we cross-reference, you can see the tight ends to the wide receivers. Brian Thomas there at 0.96, CeeDee Lamb 0.98. Now, if we go down a tier or 2, you've got Jonnu Smith down at 0.69, Travis Kelce 0.68, and then you see this just ginormous flattening of a tier here, where you go from David Njoku down to Laporta at 0.44, Mark Andrews down, then we get to Cade Otton and Zach Ertz, and that's where it really starts flattening off. So we'll start here with David Njoku at 0.53. If you cross over to quarterback, you've got Kirk Cousins at 0.49, Drake May 0.52. If you go positionally, Tyreek Hill and his ugly season 0.54. Rashad White, 0.53. And you get Jacoby Myers, 0.48. So those are the types of Kareem Hunt, Juwan Jennings, 0.48. Those are the types of cross-positional players you're matching up with tight ends 6 and later. Okay, so you have the top 5 in Brock Bowers, George Kittle, Trey McBride, Kelce, and Jonnu. But after that, it really drops off when you cross-positional these guys. I mean, Tony Pollard was at 0.66. Just equal to Kelce and Jonnu. Now, Jonnu, of course, came out of nowhere, but Kelce was somebody who obviously we've had ranked high for years. And yes, he put up less numbers this past season. But, man, if you're talking running backs ranked in the 20s, like Pollard, like Rashad White, and then wide receivers in the Tyreek Hill to Jacoby Myers area, Drake May, who was, obviously Drake May is young and he's on the rise, but he still hasn't had a top 10 season at quarterback yet. We're all hopeful for that. But Tyreek Hill on the downside, I mean, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce are pretty much in the same boat career-wise. So what I'm getting at is you don't want to overpay for these tight ends. I mean, where do you honestly think we're sliding Tyler Warren drafted to the Colts and Colston Loveland going to Harbaugh and his boys in LA if Loveland goes to the Chargers? Where are they sliding in on the dynasty landscape? Now this is a single season, and I'm not going to bring up the keep trade cut rankings, but you guys know the top two guys are Bowers and McBride, and then after that we have Laporta. Are you sliding Warren and Loveland immediately into that bracket? And even still, if you're sliding them in, how valuable are they really? Like, are they going to be putting up Trey McBride type numbers right away out of the gate? Are they even putting up Jonnu Smith or Travis Kelce type numbers out of the gate? Or are we going to have a disappointing Dalton Kincaid type career or type beginning to their career? Dalton Kincaid isn't completely done for. He's still young. He may have been a little older, drafted out of Utah, coming into the league, but he's a tight end. Tight ends play for a while. Look at Jonnu Smith finally coming through. Evan Ingram a year before finally coming through and now signing in Denver. There's excitement there. So is it more worthwhile to, if you really want a tight end, to just trade back and grab Evan Ingram plus something, or trade back and grab one of the tight ends that's a rookie this year in the following tier? The guys I'm talking about there, Harold Fannin, Elijah Arroyo out of Miami, who had an awesome Senior Bowl and burst onto the scene there. Or Mason Taylor, who also had a great Senior Bowl and has moved up as well. Those three guys are the most, in particular, I want to watch for on day two. Whether they go round 2 or 3 doesn't really matter so much to me. It's more so the location and whether that type of system, whether that type of quarterback likes to throw to the tight end, and you could see a breakout from one of those guys in that tier. We'll go back and bring up the tiers at the tight end position now. We'll go to my Patreon rankings again, and we'll slide down to, now, I don't have them in tier 4, but if you are in a league, there they are, Arroyo, Taylor, and Fannin. If you are in a league that has a 0.75, has a full point tight end premium, let me find one of those leagues and give you an idea of what the war looks like and how different it is when you have a higher end premium for these tight ends. It does make a difference. It doesn't necessarily make a difference at the as much at the top as it does in those middling range tight ends. I'm talking the Dallas Goederts, the Hunter Henrys, Taysom Hill on the bottom end of that. It's a big, long tier there at tight end. David Njoku's near the top of that, but I'm not counting Njoku as an elite tight end. Yeah, he had some moments last season where he was playing great, but he's not a top 5 tight end. Like, maybe he could squeak into the top 5 this upcoming year. Let me find one of my leagues that has a bigger tight end premium here. Well, I'm just going to use one that doesn't even have a tight end premium, but but does start 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends. We'll check that war out, and then we'll look at the one with the higher premium. So this one that I'm going to bring up next, you just have to start 2 tight ends and 2 quarterbacks. There's no premium on the tight end position. However, I think that you'll see that that flat tier is much closer to the other positions. And yes, it is. So let me bring it up for you right now. There we are. Okay, so now you can see that Travis Kelce, Jonnu Smith area fills in with Terry McLaurin, Joe Mixon, JSN, those types of players. So they're definitely higher end. David Njoku last year, again, at the top of where it evens out. You've got Brock Purdy, Garrett Wilson, Nico Collins. So you can see the difference it makes. And now we get to that flat tier, starting with Mark Andrews and Laporta last year, where they're at like 0.5. 0.5 in this league, you're looking at a disappointing Kyler Murray last year. Justin Herbert, not a great season. Tua, 0.37. Rodgers at 0.36. Cross-positionally, we're going to slide down. There we go. There's Tony Pollard. But you've got Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones, Devonta Smith. That's who David Njoku lines up with in this format. Now, if we add a premium, a true premium, let's change leagues here. Let me get out of this for you. Okay, let me find a league that I know for sure has the extra premium for the tight ends. That would be, there we go. We'll do max points best. So this one had a tiered PPR, extra half point for the running backs, and then a full point for the tight ends. Okay. And so this one, here's the war tool. Let me slide it out here for you guys. I apologize for having to slide back and forth for you, but it's important because this is, I don't want you just willy-nilly drafting Tyler Warren at the 105 because he's the top 5, because he's the top tight end. I mean, have it make sense. Have a plan. Why are you drafting him there? Or is it more worthwhile to grab the third running back? Is it, we know Omarion Hampton's ranked right now as the second running back after Genty, but should you be taking Trevion Henderson or Quinshon Judkins or a good landing spot Caleb Johnson ahead of any tight end in your league? Should you be drafting any of those running backs over the top quarterback, Cam Ward? I talked about that yesterday. I don't think Cam Ward's WAR here is going to be any higher than like a CJ Stroud, Tua, Caleb Williams, Geno Smith, any of the guys in that range at quarterback. So that's why I don't see Cam Ward fitting into this group of quarterbacks up here. A Baker Mayfield type season last year, Jaden Daniels, those guys. I don't see that Cam Ward fits into that mold. So why are you spending your 103 on a guy like that when you could be making a pick on a true difference making player like Ted McMillan or Travis Hunter for sure, or any of the top 5 running backs in this class. So here's the tight ends, and you see here you've got Zach Ertz at 0.74, Laporta 0.74, Cade Otton at 0.75, Mark Andrews 0.77, Hunter Henry. All right. Now you look at the cross-positional players similarly ranked, and you've got DeAndre Swift, the wide receivers getting a boost here. This one, now that I remember, is probably not the best example. Let me go back. I need to find one other league, because that one gives an extra point for the receptions to the wide receivers. That was the wide receiver heavy one. So I apologize for essentially wasting your time on that one, because that was a bad example. But here. Okay, we'll just use the Birdhouse League, because that one, I know, as a best ball league, I think fits the mold of what we're looking for here. All right, bring up the war graph, and now there we go. Okay, cross positionally, this range here, now you have it moved up to Devonta Smith and Zay Flowers. That's what I was trying to get at. When you bump up the premium, so you go across here, straight across with this graph, and then you see that it can actually be worthwhile to draft those tight ends, whether it's Warren or Loveland or both, in the top 7 or 8 of your rookie draft. What I don't want you is overdrafting them at picks 2 or 3 just because you see that premium. Omarion Hampton is still going to be considered higher as a value on a war chart than what Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland are. All right. So just like last year, where we had Brock Bowers, who had a monster season, okay, but that monster season, still, you had Malik Neighbors fitting. I mean, it took one of the best rookie tight end seasons, if not the best rookie tight end season of all time, for him to be worth where he was. Now, if you think that either Warren or Loveland are actually going to do that, then go ahead. Be my guest. But let's be realistic here. Let's think of it, more of like, okay, we're going to be fine with Dalton Kincaid type season. We're going to be fine with a David Njoku type season from these guys. Then you're looking at a more realistic landing spot landing spot on your rookie draft board. And that's why even in the 0.75 tight end premium format, when I did the mock draft last Thursday with the 2 guys from DD Fantasy, John Bauer and Shane Manila, great stuff over there. As always, they're having a ton of action this week. So you can check those guys out. As always, I'm not opposed to letting you guys know where great information is. And so I'm going to show you that draft board. Now, Mason Taylor's been getting a little bit of steam lately, and that's why he got taken. You can see the tight ends in the orange here. Now, John Bauer grabbed Tyler Warren up at the 107, but afterwards he mentioned a couple of times how how that was a pick he would have taken back. He, despite the 0.75 tight end premium, should have taken Caleb Johnson. Now, he liked Caleb Johnson over Quinshon Judkins. That's an argument for another day. But he wanted to take Caleb Johnson over Tyler Warren afterwards. So in this case, Tyler Warren should have gone more likely around where the second and third quarterbacks went, Shedeur and Jackson Dart, and in the area of Emeka Egbuka. That's where he felt afterwards that he should have taken Tyler Warren. So you can see, even with the bigger premium, these guys are not Brock Bowers type prospects. They're good, but they're not that great. The key in this class, to me personally, is that you have a Mason Taylor, Elijah Arroyo, Harold Fannin, and even Terrence Ferguson possibly going on day 2. Some of them will go in round 2, and we'll see the landing spots as to which one I kind of lean towards. Maybe the guy that goes in round 3 has a better landing spot than the guy that goes earlier in round 2. So I'll lean towards the guy that goes in round 3 because maybe even he gets lesser ADP. So I'd like to grab that. All right. I'd rather grab the cheaper option in round 3 if I can trade back from my 205 or 6 pick to pick up a late second and third round pick. I'll take that. Right? So that's where we use WAR, and we use it to help ourselves out in deciding where to pick the tight ends, because it's a tough thing, and you don't want to waste an early pick, a valuable pick, on a position where it's not going to really make that much of a difference. All right? We want to be picking with those the first half of the round 1, top 5, top 6 picks. We want those to be difference makers. And that, to me, is the biggest message at the tight end position for you. I'm feeling like the top 6 tight ends, not just the top 2 tight ends, but the next 3 or 4 guys, especially, could have just as good of a season and career, stats-wise, fantasy-wise. That's what we're looking for as the top 2 guys in Warren and Loveland. So take that what you will. I appreciate you joining this lovely Tuesday morning. And if you've got any questions, again, throw them my way at buymeacoffee.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show. Check out the Patreon, patreon.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show. You can join for just $3 a month. Super cheap. I mean, that's the price of a coffee. Just buy me a coffee or join me for a coffee in the Patreon. Anyway, we're going to be back tomorrow with more action at wide receiver and evaluate the wide receiver position and where you should be drafting those guys, because it is tricky with wide receivers as well. So more tidbits of information for you before we have the glorious 2025 NFL Draft Thursday night. Thank you all for joining today. And remember, never stop working.